we're all ITS, or we're all IT here. As aside from or aside from Dana, section A or section B, we're joined in with the CSC 209 or the ComSci kumbaga. Alright, so today we're going to have another discussion in continuation to our graphics and visual computing lessons. Allow me to share to you my screen. Hold on. Okay, makita lang ba ang screen? Okay, alright. Okay, so again, today we're going to talk about the 7 principles of graphic design. So please listen carefully. After this class, there will be learning assessment and assignment will be posted. Right. Okay, so to start with, let's talk about what exactly are principles. Okay, so principles are the things that people ought to follow to be better, right? So whatever it is that they think that will make them better, principles. People have principles. They set principles on their own. So it's so happened that in graphic designing, there are also principles that every designer should follow for them to create a good design, to make sure that the design that they are going to produce is as much as possible will impress instead of just expressing, right? So after all, as graphic designers, our main goal is to design to impress, not to express, not just to express. All right, so the 7 principles of design. So basically, there are different principles of design, guys. If we're going to Google it, you can find principles for interior design. You can find principle for painting, digital art, ano pa man, sketching, so on and so forth. But this 7 principles of design is particularly for graphics design. So we're going to learn how to create layouts, or perhaps this is to improve our skills for composition. So say composition, how we created design. Basically, that's it. So why is it important? So again, since our main goal is to impress, not everyone will really appreciate your design, guys, diba? Every time that we're going to draw something, we know that it's very good for us, but not everyone is going to be pleased. Not everyone is going to like it. That's why the 7 principles of design was studied and introduced in that way. It will maximize the number of people, or perhaps it will maximize the range of the people who are going to appreciate the design, because the 7 principle mura siya gigama siya, gi-introduce siya, so that your design will more likely be liked by most people, by more people, di ba? Because more people will tend to like the design even more, or appreciate the design even more. So, as a designer, we have to follow these principles for us to be able to produce quality or high quality designs. So, this, to start with, the very first and perhaps one of the easiest and one of the most important principle in graphic design is alignment. It's the easiest, it's the basic, it's one of the most basic, and perhaps sa yung siyang buhaton. It's called alignment or grids. So grids helps align your elements together to help you identify how they relate to another. So when we add alignment or grids to our design, we are trying to create order. We're trying to introduce order, or we are trying to make sure that our design is gonna have a pleasing connection. That means um, it's just gonna be easy to the eye. It's just easy to look at, and it just makes everything much better. compared to design that doesn't have any alignment at all. All right, let me show you some examples. So here are some of graphic designs that uses proper alignment. So notice that the elements have their own, the elements are pretty much they are aligned together, just makes it a lot easier to look at, a lot easier to understand what they are trying to convey, and it just makes it a little easier for us to read them and to look at them. Do you agree on that? The line itself will guide us where to look. Kumbaga, that is one of the effects of alignment or grid is that it will guide us when how to read. Um, it will guide us what to look first or something like that because basically the elements are perfectly aligned together. For example, let's take a look at this area right here. So we know this is a text. This is paragraphs containing multiple paragraphs or yeah, paragraphs that is divided into two columns. So we know for a fact that every time that we will read from this area to here, let me set to laser. So every time that we're going to read from this area, we know that we will stop here and then we'll continue to the next line. We're not going to be reading from here to here and then continue there to there, right? So basically, the alignment will give us will also aside from making everything much easier to look at, alignment also tells us where to proceed, where to look, and where to proceed. So another example is this. So it just makes it a little. It just makes the design more neat. All right. So this is an actual graphic design that I created. Notice that medyo dugay-dugay na ni. Please disclaimer lang. I prepared this presentation 2 years ago already. So there might be some designs that are already obsolete. It's already medyo na napasan na sa panahon. I wasn't able to update the contents with new photos or designs. And anyway, that's not the point. The point here is for me to be able to explain it to you bitaw, dili bitaw ang recently sa date or something like that. But anyway, let's start with this photo and let's try to find the elements that are being aligned together. So let's highlight it out. That's it. Okay. So these are the elements that are being highlighted together. So by creating an alignment, we're able to make sure that the design will be easy to the eye, easy to look at, and just gives the elements that has same relationship better, let's say, emphasis. All right, let me hide this and let's talk about it. So let's say, for example, take a look at this box. Kani. All right, here. Let's take a look at this box. We'll start moving. We'll try. Imagine we're going to create a straight line from this area to the right. So we're going to create a straight line, and what's the first thing that we see? It's the this box is aligned to this word that says from December 18 to 30. That's it. And if we're going to continue, we'll okay, again nato ning a box again that contains all these details right here. So although it's not really visible, but if we're going to create an imaginary straight line, we'll notice that all of these elements are aligned together. And this here, the special discount, they're also aligned together. Diba? And then, isa pa man. Here, discount. Here, this one is red. Alright, so although it's very subtle, dili kay ni mo siya mabantayan, but it just makes the design a lot more character on it because every design, every element are being carefully aligned together. Another example, this one. All right, so this is a poster that I created for a for our small printing business back then. So this is a poster that contains the price list inside the shop so that it would be easy for the customer para din sila masipangutana pila yung presyo pila ni pila na. We created a poster that will just print all the let's say the prices for different kind of prints. So alignments. Let's try to take a look. Let's highlight the alignments here. That's it. All right. So there are several elements here that are related to each other that shares the same relationship. So let's say, for example, let's hide it. Kani. let's focus on this kaning nga row. We have here sublimation and transfer paper. They are different types of printing process, but they share the same relationship, which is being these are types of print, digital prints. That's why they share the same relationship, and we made sure that they are also aligned together. Using this, connect. Same thing horizontally and vertically. And another thing is I created an imaginary margin. So if we're going to highlight the edges, so connect. So notice that there is um, enough space before the element is being created. Alright? So it's very subtle, dili kayo mo siyang mabantayan, but it just makes the design easy to look at. So one of the most important thing when we are trying to design is you're going to prepare. You're going to prepare or perhaps plan how are you going to align your elements. That is the first step is to plan your alignment. Next is focal point. Now, when we say focal point, let's see, kinsay na ay digital SLR or DSLR cameras or nakagamit na lang kana nakagamit. All right, what do you mean by focal point on those type of camera? Just siguro ang focal point in a camera. The focal point is the length of your lens, right? So usually the kit lens started with an 18 millimeter. That means that is the distance between the lens itself and the sensor, the camera sensor. And the closer the closer the lens to the sensor, the wider the photo, right? So that's focal point. So basically, since the lens is closer to the sensor, it gives a wider area of view. And then magkalayo gani ang lens sa sensor, meaning nagkadako na siya, magkagamay pod ang iyahang view, di ba? That's why kana mga long range, I'm not sure if you or some of you know, maybe not, I'm not sure if all of you know, but basically when we zoom in, din na lang tamo example of camera sa cellphone na lang, camera sa cellphone. So notice that if we zoom in, mas gamay ang atong makita, right? It's because we increase, so if sa camera pa siya nagkalayo ang lens at ang sensor, it only gives nagkagamay ang iyahang focal point. And then if we're going to zoom out, magkadako ang iyang focal point, magkadako ang area sa atong picturean na makita. Nasabtan ba? Focal point. Kana mo example, if mo picture ta og let's say using our phone, di ba makita nato ang bitan magpa-picture ta sa like sa garden, di ba? If we want to make sure nga makita ang tibok garden, then we have pwede ta mo atras para makita ang tibok garden. But if we want to focus somebody inside or a particular kanang mo focus na tawag sa kabuok flower inside a garden, we mo zoom in ta, di ba? I-zoom in nato, and then once we zoom in, ang ato makita na lang kay kato na lang area palibot sa flower and nawala ng tibuok garden. So that is called focal point. So that's the same case with designing. So we in cameras we use focal point for us to focus on a specific area or subject. That is the same thing with designing. We want to tell the viewers what or where should the people look at first. So when we are trying to add focal point principle in our design, we are trying to give our viewers the experience or visual experience. We want to tell them which part to look at first, and then that's it. Basically, we're trying to tell them a story by looking at the picture itself. That is focal point. What it does is it will give emphasis, and it will be able to communicate, or it will be able to convey communication a lot more effective. So let's start with the first example here. Now, this picture might be a little bit controversial Sauban, but my point here is to let you to tell you what focal point is all about. So by looking at the photo, what would be the first thing that you will see right away? He says, all right. Okay? Maybe kana, or maybe you'll also notice the globe. Di ba? So basically, but looking at it, the first thing that you'll see is this word. Kanina. Why is that so? Basically, I created it in a way that you will see the word right away, or di ba, kanibang globe. So by looking at it, diba, that's the first thing you'll see, and the more that you're going to look at it, that's the time that you will realize that there are some details. Diba? The more na yung tanaw ka sa picture, that's the time na may realize ni mga napaday ibang mga details that you might have missed. But it's no doubt that if once you look at it, the first thing that you'll see is this or this. Okay? So that is focal point. We want to tell the viewer what to look first, and then the more na mo tanaw sila, murabag ma-experience nila nga, you're trying to tell them what to, you're trying to tell them a story by looking at your photo. Okay? So just like this, my kuan akong goal in this kind of my message, the message that I'm trying to express in this photo is that this world right here, di ba? Ang kalibutan na ni, there are tons of names inside. Na yung mga president, na yung mga leader, na yung mga politics, na yung mga artista. There are millions of names inside this, within this world, but there are only one name that is above every name. So that's what I'm trying to convey. Next, this is a poster that I created for our small printing business back then. What's the first thing that you will see? Okay, all right. So the first thing that you will see perhaps is the T-shirt. Either kaning T-shirt. Actually, I'm pretty sure that una nato makita is a T-shirt mismo. The moment, for example, scroll down ka sa imong phone, pas kay kang scroll down. Una gini yung bantayan kini T-shirt. So why is that so ngano ka naman? Just like this, ngano ka ni may una makita? Because we added emphasis to it. Yun sa nato pag add emphasis, atong gipadak-an here in my case ako siyang gipadak-an, gibutangan pa dyan ako glow since mura siya og nata sa outer space, then I make it look like glowing, and then I added the sun in the background, diba? So just to make it little more to give it emphasis and to make sure that people will see it first. And same thing here, I made sure na dako siya kayo. Dako siya, it covers the half of the page. And then once you see this, then you'll realize that yes, it really is for printer t-shirt printing. And the more that you're going to look at it, the more details that you'll find. Let's say the more ka mo tanaw, since mo interested na ka by looking here, so especially if you're really looking for t-shirt printing, and that's the time that you'll start reading, right? So that is focal point. You are going to tell the viewers what to look first, and then the moment that you're going to continue watching it or looking at it, the more information that they'll get. So that is, let's say, a visual experience. This one. All right. So this is an illustration or a graphic design that I created. This was a couple years ago. It was when our small town in Ayungan was devastated with the news that our previous mayor was assassinated. Our katong mga local nga mga police officers got katong gi massacre inana, then daghan kay mga patay aning time. Our once very peaceful town was devastated with crimes. So, by the way, kinsa tagayungon din? Nabay tagayungon? Okay, I guess wala. All right. Anyway, we were very peaceful. We were a very peaceful place, but because of what happened, multiple crimes was nahitabo, and it was just very sad. And we feel like we are not safe anymore, so that's why I created this to promote peace, diba? So that's why you will see. Basically, this is what we see in Ayungan. You'll see our kiosk, our municipal hall that looks just like this. We have kanang mura og kanin sa ni mura o hagdang palayan or something like that, rice terraces kumbaga. We also have falls, and we have plenty of trees because we have the remaining virgin forest in Negros Oriental. That's it. And then actually this is not just for Ayungin, this is for the entire Negros. So you are trying to tell your viewer what exactly is that all about, and you want to tell them that it's all about peace. Yeah? We want to promote peace. for the entire, for the town and for the entire province. All right. Okay, so na-gets na yung focal point. So for us to set a proper focal point, for us to provide a proper na visual experience for our viewers, we have to make sure that some other elements will be given more emphasis than the others. Dapat mas ma-emphasize ang uban, especially itong mga importante nga element, para una siyang makita dayon. One of the ways to give it emphasis is to increase the size and just make them brighter. Kumbaga, inana. Make it more attractive than the other. Okay. All right. Next is contrast. This is number three. Contrast. It means emphasis and opposition of the elements. So, have you heard of the saying opposite attract? Nakadog na ba tayo na? Hello? Dahan. Opposite attract. Sige na to lang, especially if we're talking about relationships, crushes. Ba, dili ko niya kay lahi ra kaayo mi. Char. Char kayo. Dili mi bagay kay opposite kayo mi. He's a little bit she's a little bit country and I play rock and roll. Anyway, in graphic design, it really is true. Opposite definitely attracts. What does it mean? So when we say contrast, di ba? When we say contrast, that is the opposition or kumbaga the difference between two elements or something like that. So for example, if naay dako, napoy gamay, that's contrast. If naay dark, naay light, that's contrast. Murag opposite ba? So that is very important in graphic designing. What are the things that we have to kuan? Unsa may mga butang nga dapat nato i-contrast? Here, we should always contrast scale, gidak-on, color, shape, weight. When say weight, baga ba or nipes? Nana, gibugaton sa element like text, font, and then layout. Right? So again, the purpose of contrast is for us to give emphasis para mas maklaro gid siya and to give a position of the idea. Let's check. So this is an example. I created this graphic design 2 years ago. We were still having face-to-face classes. Um, this is a print. This is for a T-shirt for IT. Now, what is the very first element that you'll notice that shows contrast? Anyone? Technology, bulfa. Sige, technology. Unsa may iyang gi contrast sa technology? Sige, go ahead. Try to spot and try to understand ngano siyang contrast. Sige, somebody says technology. Can you tell us why? Sige na. Anyone? Anyone? Anybody who wants to spot anything that is contrasting in this photo? Again, let's remember contrasts are applicable for scale, color, shape, weight, and layout. Okay, we'll skip this because this is an entirely graphic design. So kani dili naman siya apart na siya sa graphic design pero it's a graphic design on its own because it's logo. Let's take a look at the entire design. I think Palomar has something to say. Go ahead. Right. And if we're going to look in the picture, unsa may contrast ani visually the contrast. Okay, kaya nga na ang gear man. Sige, go ahead. Mhm. All right. Okay, that's a good point. However, let's talk about the kuan ba? Atong sa atong topic kani contrast of scale, color, shape, weight, layout. All right, let me give you an example. Okay, so the word information technology. So we know that information technology usually comes together, right? Information, it's really a technology, and information technology is our course right now. However, let's talk about the first thing, which is contrasting scale. Ang gidakon. Notice that information is smaller than technology. So that is a contrast already. Because information, technology. Ang technology kay dako siya kaysa information. Although, supposedly, they are supposed to be information technology. Dapat usa unta siya. Alright? But we added contrast. Okay? It's because, if we're going to think of it, we want to, this design or this print, design print or t-shirt print, I'm sorry, t-shirt design is intended to tell the people that the wearer or kinsay gasot ani nga t-shirt knows about technology. That's it. That's the first thing that we want the people to see is we want them to know that we know about technology. Once we take a deeper look, that's the time that we will realize, oh, what kind of technology? It's about information technology. But we already get their attention by telling them that we know about technology, and that's the time that once we look deeper, that's the time that we will realize it's about information technology. So that's the first thing that is contrast, the scale ang gidak on sa words na information and technology. So that's an example. Another example, go ahead. Anyone? Can you spot any other contrast? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. That's good, Miss Aboy. Yeah, right. So as another thing to consider when we're contrasting is weight, gibag on sa letter. So we have the information is little bit denser, then the technology is bold. Kumbaga, all right. So aside from this, let's focus on the other elements that we find in this photo. What else? What other elements do you think are contrasting with each other? Okay, sige, mas maklaro tong ka Miss Bara. Unsa tong Miss Bara? An araw unsa Okay, unsa may ga-contrast sa araw ano naman? Kani. Alright. Okay, so naigagmay na dagko, right? So that's still contrast. Alright, so araw, unsa lang say pasabot kanito ani? In IT, nakinom mo para unsa to ni? Last sem at last sem when we were having our C++ lesson. Para unsa to ni siya? Anyone? Ha? Insertion. Insertion. CN. Alright. Okay, so CN ba to C out? Okay, but anyway, this is an insertion operator, right? So ay mo kalimutan na. This is very important for it. So basically, since we are talking about IT, we're talking about some symbols that are related for information technology. So that's right. We also have this contrasting scale. Aside from that, let's take a look at this one in here. Kaning mura o nalimot ko sa ito ani. Basta kay basta, mura katong sa kuha ni Iron Man. Anyway, here, notice that this area right here composed of multiple quadratic shapes, diba? And the first thing perhaps that we'll notice is the size. Kare, kaning mga blue, tag asya, then kaning orange is mubo, pero mas lapad, alright? Another thing is the color. So since the kaning ubang boxes are blue, to make it contrast with the other boxes, we use yellow or some kind of an orange, right? So if we're going to, unsa man to pagkabalo, how do we select colors if we want opposite colors? Oh, I'm sorry, if we want to create high contrast nga colors, unsa gitoy atong buhaton? Or unsa nga color harmony atong pilion? Remember last meeting, if you want to look for colors that have higher contrast, unsa nga color harmony atong pilion? Okay, that's good. Either triadic or let's say complementary. All right, complementary or triadic. These or perhaps this split complementary, so on and so forth. These colors will ensure a higher contrast. So if you want to design something that we want it to have a higher contrast in the colors, then let's go to our color wheel and look for either triad or complementary. The monochrome and analogous will give balanced color. That's okay, silingan naman sila. Dili kayo siya contrast. Same with monochrome. However, for triad and complementary, it will always be um, high. It will always have a high contrast. That means all of these color will work well together. It's like this. And another thing that is very fun, I'm not sure if magets niyo ni, but this one right here, what do you think this is? What do you think that when we talk about computers or IT? Isa lang siguro na. Uh, Murag loading bar, right? Loading bar. So if you can remember, maybe some of you experienced Windows XP. It's an experience of Windows XP before. Alright. So Windows XP mo na iyahang unloading bar. Alright. So basically that is the idea behind that particular. So still related to IT. Alright? So that is contrast. So another and pinaka-obvious siguro is since the t-shirt, sorry, and the design and background here is blue because the intention was it will be printed to a blue t-shirt. So I made sure that I will only use designs that or colors that are contrast. So that's why we use white, we use this color for to make it more visible than the color blue, which is the background. Diba? So that's the most obvious. So contrast. Another example is this. So this is a cover page that I created when we were when Bachelor of Science in Information Technology were accredited by CHED. Itong gi-accredita 2 years ago when we're still doing our face-to-face class. Gi-accredited, gi-visit ang mga taga-CHED. And we were the ones working up for it, mga IT or NCOM sa instructors. Basically, fine. Kami magkatrabaho ato and then I was assigned for the designing, obviously. So I created this as a poster and can you spot anything that shows contrast? Okay, color. That's obvious. Okay. So we have color, right? Background, we have dark and white. Another thing, since dark ang atong background, so atong Bachelor of Science Information Technology is light. Same thing on the left side, since light ang atong background, we made sure that the words Negros Oriental State University, which is our subject, is going to be clearly visible by using dark color. So again, that's contrast. We always make sure if mo design ganita niya, mo gamit na tag dark, obviously we have to use lighter colors for our subjects or foreground. If our foreground is light, then obviously, or background is light, we'll obviously have to use darker color for our front sa ato ang subject. Another example is this. Basically, this design was created 2016. Wala pa ko idea about principles of graphic design. Basta kay design budget ko, ana. So, when our youth pastor asked me to design para sa iyahang message ba ina, which is this topic is about knowing the source of your potential. So, although dili kayo siya mo haom like right now because daan na ni kayo, but still it still uses the principle of design which is contrast. We use contrast of the boldness of the letters, the colors, and etc. All right? So it's very bold ni siya nga design because in fact daghang mga medyo dili kayo siya nindot nga dili kayo siya mapasar sa entire principle of designs versus alignment, di ba? All right, so medyo daan na siya ang style. Anyway, So that was contrast. Just the purpose, the main purpose of the contrast is to make things easier to look at, to give emphasis so that it would be easy to look at. So yun siyang tunawon, so yun siyang basahon. Next is repetition. So when you say repetition, meaning balik-balik. So nindot tayo ng balik-balik na design, sir. No, that's not what I meant. Let's talk about it. Repetition unifies visual elements and make them look interesting. Repetition gives consistency and makes all the elements organized. Alright? So unsa na ipasabot og repetition? Let's take a look at this photo. This is another poster that I created for the same reason when I showed you a while ago. There are things that are repeating, especially if there are elements on your design. If na mga elements in your design that tends to repeat, make it look the same. So, I guess that would be the idea for the repetition. Kung naaga na yung mga elements sa imong design na kinahanglan yung balikon, make sure na pareha sila kitsura. Alright? Take note of that. What are the things that are repeating here? Let's take a look at the left side. We have here the price, and then on the right side, we have here the type of print. So, since price, magbalik-balik man ang price with different in amount, pero magbalik-balik ka good gyapon siya, then I made sure that they will share the same design. That's why same font, same color. Same thing on the right side. Since magbalik-balik man ang ato ang type sa print, since ato mo siyang balikon, then we made sure na pareha ang ilang design. So, I guess that will be, the idea is, again, kung magbalik-balik gani, ang atong element, make sure na pareha siya o color, pareha siya o design. Alright? So, aside from the text that are repeating, we also have the colors. So, if we're going to take a look at the entire photo, we will see color green. And we use color green repeatedly with the entire design, just changing the shape or the shades a little bit. Alright, another example. So, maybe this is really not a very good example, but this particular design, in fact, dili gani mo siya mabasa o ASDF lang, wala siya proper na content. But I just want to show you how repetition is plays its role here. So this was created when we were still doing our face-to-face class. I asked my students to create a brochure for their para sa ilahang sa tourism sa ilahang koan. Tourism sa ilahang munisipyo to kung taga-asa sila or city kung taga-asa sila. So this is one of the pages inside sa akong example. So here, if we're going to take a look at the bottom right corner, these are some of the places that people visits in Ayungod. So since they are similar to each other, diba, they share the same idea nga puro sila mga lugar sa Ayungod, they share the same size and then shape. So nag-repeat ang iyang size o ang shape, right? So that's repetition. Just to make it consistent. Since kinahanglan magbalik ang picture, kaya para mapakita na ako ang mga pictures sa Ayungod, then kinahanglan nga pareho sila o design or layout. Oops, nalabaw. Next, all right. So let's go back to this example because it offers lots of repetitions here. So notice na kaning mga price list needs to be repeated. Kinahanglan ko siyang balik-balik para makita sa mga customer the exact price depending on the type of t-shirt or the type of printing that they want. So since kinahanglan siyang balik-balik, I made sure that they share the same design, same siya of layout, just like that. In fact, the entire kaninga area, sublimation, transfer, since kinahanglan ako siyang balikon, that means I have to make sure na pareha ang iyang design tanan. Same thing with the t-shirt template here. Right? Do you follow, guys? All right. So we're almost done now. Again, by the way, I forgot to tell you, but this would be a relatively short, less discussion. It's because this would be the last on the discussion regarding theory about graphics design. Starting next week or on our next meeting, we will start with application, meaning we will start with Adobe Photoshop, so on and so forth. So next is we have balance. So say balance. each element has some kind of visual weight in them. So they have to be balanced. So let's take a look at this picture. Kanina picture. If we're going to fold it in half, kana, if imagine we're going to fold it in half, notice that there will be the same number of elements we can find here on the right side and on the left side. In fact, the word balance is centered. Gi-center man ang word balance sa taning ang description. Therefore, if ato siyang tungaon, the same number of letters will be on the left side, the same number of letters on the right side. So, one of the most important thing in designing to consider is try to make your design as balanced as possible. So one way to do that is to try to imagine to kuan. Imagine nga imong piloon ang imuhang design into half. Make sure the amount of elements that will be used on the left side should be the same weight on the right side. Dili siya yung dapat nga pareha jud ang imong design sa wala, pareho pud ang design sa to. No. You just have to try to weight them on your mind. Kung ilang mo silang timbangon, for example, imo siya collect nimo tanang elements, try nimo timbang, and then the right side, i-try nimo estimate nga dapat pare-pareho ang ilahang weight, ang significance kumbaga. Alright, so let's take this as an example. This was a t-shirt printing again for CAS students a few years ago when we were still doing our face-to-face class. So I created this, and this is an example of a balanced graphic design. And particularly, it's called symmetric. In say symmetric, pareho ang iyahang design for each side, whether left side or right side. So if we're going to fold this picture into two, diba? Similar ang picture nga naa sa left side, similar po ang naa sa right side. Am I correct? Okay, that's balance. So another example is this. Okay, so when I was still studying here in NORSU, basically this design was created maybe 2014 pa balagin ang design na ni. When I was still studying here in NORSU, and basically this is my logo. I used to call myself Jules the Great. Okay, no. Anyway, if we're going to fold this into half, you'll notice that it will be the same, similar nga amount of elements on the left side and the right side. So this is still an example of symmetric balance. All right, here same thing, symmetric ra gyapon siya. So this is a poster I created for my friend's um, baby. Oh, I'm sorry. This was a poster I created for the birthday of my friend's son. So if we're going to fold this into half, same thing. Ug unsay mga design nga na diri, or unsa gidaghanon ang design na diri sa left side, same thing with the right side. So these are all examples of symmetry. This one right here. Okay. Again, remember this presentation was created a few 2 years ago, so I'm not trying to pull any political idea here, but this is when Manny Pacquiao won a fight. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was with I think it was Broner, or nalimot ko kinsa tong kinsa tong iyang kalaban. But Pacquiao is really my favorite, one of the people that I admired in the entire Philippines, and one of the people I can say I'm proud to be Pinoy is because of him. So I created a poster to honor his victory. Excuse me. And this is an example of balance, diba? If we're going to fold this picture into half, so we have here on the left side and the right side are similar. So notice the logo at the top. All right. So these are all symmetric balance, meaning pareha ang iyang amount from left to right. So this is also a poster that I created when I was still working in Qualphone. So I'm not sure, but I think some of you, I think there's one student who's currently working in Qualphone, but I'm not sure if dere ba tong section or the other. But anyway, to give you an idea, nabay taga Qualphone dere? Okay, I think sa lain itong section. Anyway, to give you an idea, I was working night shift, and then I was working on a telco company or client. So we take phone calls for telecommunication, like sa internet, sa cellphone, the internet, sa text, na ba? And then that that client has two servers. We have Atlanta server and Miami servers. These are different cities in US. And kanang it so happened nga mas daghan ang calls sa Miami. Daghan kayong calls sa Miami. So therefore, obviously, daghang mo sulod sa Atlanta nga server. Daghang mo take og calls using Atlanta server para mas gamay man ilang calls. So yung nahitabo sa ubang mga supervisors, ubang mga teams, ilang schedule like karong wika Atlanta ka, next week Miami na pud ka. Sa among team wala. Ang ginabuhat sa among supervisor is first come first serve. So kinsay mas masayo mo'y makauna sa Atlanta, ana ba? Kinsay mo lahi, ato kas Miami. So that's what we did. So what happened is it encourages us to go to the site as early as we can. So it so happened na himo na siya namong not really a conflict but himo siya namong kuan ba paunhanay murag himo siyang way for us to be ganing competitive. Eh dapat pasayo ay naman eh. So that's why we decided to create a design, to to show that effort, and I've come up with this. It's not really a good design, but dili kay siya nindot yun by today's standard, but it still works, right? So that's why we have Team Night Warriors, Atlanta versus Miami. So again, all of these examples are balanced, right? But these are symmetric balance. How about let me show you an example of asymmetric, meaning dili na siya pantay na klase of, let's say if it's still balanced. Hold on. I will let you decide, or I will let you judge whether or not the picture is balanced. Here, right? Oops. Okay, this photo right here. Is this balanced or not? Okay, ano man? Okay, all right. Okay, that's a good point. However, the balancing is not just symmetric. Diba? Kaya ina, kato akong ipakita, this one is what you call symmetric balance, meaning pantay ang iyang left over right side. Diba? However, this picture is also balanced. But this is considered asymmetric balance, meaning dili pantay ang iyang left side and the right side. But why is it still balanced? Nganong balance man siguro siya? Let's try to imagine this picture is divided into half. Tungaon nato siya into half. Diba? Notice that in the left side, you'll get all of the letters. Correct? Makuha ni mo tanang letters sa left side. And on the right side, makuha ni mo ang car. Tinod ba? If we're going to fold it. Okay. So that makes it balanced. So to compensate, since we have the car is not nakabutang siya sa right side, to compensate it, we need to put all of these other elements, which is the text, on the left side para mabalance niya ang car, which is on the right side. So if we're going to move this text to the right side, delete na balance, it will feel like the right side is too heavy for the design. Okay? So that's why, since nasa left, right side ang car, and we know cars are very heavy, that's why we put all of the text on the left side. Do you get the idea? Gets lang ba? Alright, so that is why you call asymmetric balance. So imagine when we are trying to design like anything, like graphic design, logo, not exactly logo, but when we try to design posters, banners, covers, you should always remember with the balance. We always have to make sure that our design is stable and it's going to stand on its own. So that's why we have balance. So that is principle number, number 5. All right, number 5. So let's have number 6, negative space. All right, so we're almost done now. So let's talk about negative space. Negative space are also called white space. So if you can remember last meeting, we've talked about spaces, one of the element. And we know that negative space are the absence of a positive space. Meaning, if na kay papel, okay, if na kay papel, imong buslutan, katong imong gigunting rather, imong giguntingan og circle sa tunga, katong gitangtang imong nga circle is the positive space. The negative space is what miss katong nabuslot sa papel. So, we'll try to apply that using our on our graphic design as principle of design. Just here, respect negative space, meaning let your design elements breathe. So meaning we are going to let our design elements will give them enough space for it to be able to breathe. Kasi pasabot ana, tagaan na to siya dako nga lugar para siya makaginhawa. Alright, let me just show you what it looks like. So this is a graphic design that I created for Pinta Flores. That's a Pinta Flores Festival in San Carlos City, Negros Occidental. It was in 2018, so again, medyo taon-taon na siya. Alright, so take a look at the word Pinta Flores 2018. So notice the negative space. Kana. Dako kay siya lugar para makaginhawa. By doing so, we're able to clearly see the words Pinta Flores. Klaro kayo siya, it's because we've given it enough space to breathe. So that is negative space. We have to make sure that there will be enough space for our design element, which is Pinta Flores, para mas maklaro siya, ma-emphasize siya. So another example is this. So I've shown it to you a while ago. Basically the same thing. Notice that in this area right here, di ba, for ang ato rang gibutan diri is Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. Pero dako kayo ayang space. But by doing so, naklaro natog maayo ang words nga Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. We've seen it clearly. It's because dako kayo ang space nga gibutang para niya. Do you agree? Okay. All right. So that is negative space. So we're just going to make sure that the design elements will be able to um, breathe easily. So basically, by understanding this principle, it's not good ay nga mag-cramp kaayo ang atong design. Dili day maayo nga mapuno og elements, mapuno og mga clip arts, mapuno og pictures ang atong design. Because we want to give each element enough space to breathe. So dili nato dapat taghanon og butang og mga elements. So that's why as minimal as possible, that's better. So another example is this. Now this is not my design, obviously. This was the 10th anniversary, the first 10 years of Marvel Studios. So I guess it was 2019 or 2018 ba ito na? Nalimot ako. 2018 rather. Nagtrabaho po ko sa Palfonan. If you can remember, Avengers Infinity War. So that was the Marvel's 10-year anniversary. So this is the poster for that. So it says here, if you notice, si Iron Man is flying so far from the rest of the crowd. So basically, we've given Iron Man some kind of negative space. Diba? Do you see it? Do you follow? Okay, gitaga na to enough space si Iron Man so that, for the design. And by doing so, we're able to, maklaro dayon na to siya. Wala na to naklaro dayon si, kinsa man si Wong. Wala na to naklaro dayon si Wong. So if we're going to compare which one will be seen right away, si Wong or si Iron Man? Obviously, si Iron Man. What about si Wanda? Asa ron si Wanda, makita ba dayon? Dugay ko pangita niya, di ba? Alright? So that's it. That's the importance of negative space. By giving it enough empty space around it, we're able to see it. We're able to spot it directly right away. So it means asa ron si Iron Man to karon nilupan. Alright? So that is negative space. And just to add up, why do you think? Ano siguro gilahi nila si Iron Man diya? Why do you think? Especially katong mga fans. Alright. Okay? Siguro siya may pinakabida. But this is the time that they decided na patio na nila sa Iron Man. Because napatay man siya, di ba? Napatay siya sa end game, right? So they will have to let go of Iron Man. That's why they decided to kaning palupad. I'm not sure, but I think that's it. So that's negative space. So the importance of negative space is that it will, if we're going to add enough space for an object, will be, or an element, will be able to spot it right away. And lastly, and perhaps for me, is the most important thing. It is similar with this um, negative space is what you call use elements minimally. So we often heard the word or the saying, simplicity is beauty. Well, in graphic design, simplicity is indeed beauty. So as a graphic designer, it's not enough na dagkano dyan ako color para mas, di ba? O sa kuan ba to get the attention mo kuno bidaghano na ako maayo color be, ana. So it's good. However, as a graphic designer, we should always use the elements minimally. What do you mean by that? We need to use only 1 to 4 shades of one color. So we say shades of color. So let's say for example, if naa kay yellow, you can use darker yellow, you can use lighter yellow, so on and so forth. So that's why you call shades. So one good example of that is, let's go back to our color wheel, and then let's select monochromatic. So here, so we will try to select, let's say, red. Kani. So this is red. And these are the shades of red. So if we're going to use red for our design, then we should only use 1 to 4 shades of that color. So for example, we can either use this particular red, we can use this, we can use this and this. There should be only 1 to 4 shades of that same color for the entire design. Okay, again, 1 to 4. Next, we will only use two colors, 1 or 2 colors. This is very important. So we know na maka-use ta og 1 to 4 shades of one color, but we can only use 1 to 2 colors as well. So let me try to show you an example of this one. All right, kini. So how many colors do you think there is in this photo? Pila guro ka ba color? Unsa may 3? Nga naman 3. Ah, pinsa? Again, let's try to find the main color, not the shades of color, but the main color. How many? Okay? 2. Piyon sa lang man. Okay. I think it's orange and gray, right? Okay, I think that's orange and gray. That's correct. So there are only two colors here. We have orange and gray. Sir, how about the white? Okay, let's talk about white before proceed. Notice, if we're going to go back to our color wheel, unfortunately, it's not the kind of color wheel that we need. But okay, I would like to open my Photoshop, pero mulag tag sa mode, so I'm not going to do so. White is just the highest color of the brightest color of every color. I'm sorry, white is the brightest shade of every color. So for example, what happens if we're going to increase the brightness of orange? So basically, the orange gets brighter and brighter until such time that it will be color white. Diba? Do you agree? Di ko ka-show ninyo because mulag akong computer kung akong. Alright, let me try na lang. Let me open up my Photoshop for us to really understand why we need to exempt white as our main color. However, we already have orange, so we have here the actual orange color, and then in this area we're also using orange but lighter shade of orange. Here we have gray, that is our gray color, and then on the right side we have a lighter shade of gray, and then in this area we have a darker shade of gray. Diba? So basically we have only two colors but we have different shades of color. So going back to nganong white ko siya, the brightest the brightest shade of any color. So let me open up Adobe Photoshop. Shaglag, basta mo-open ako Photoshop. Okay, bukat ka ng Chrome. Alright, here's Photoshop. And, oops. Okay, let me open the palette. Here. Okay. So let's say, for example, let's go to orange. So we have here the orange. Kana. So, kani. So if we want to increase the brightness of orange, so we have here letter B. I'm sorry, that's not it. Okay, dito na lang. If we want to increase the brightness of orange, all we need to do is move this area. Notice, muna itong color ha? Muna itong color which is orange. And if we're going to increase the brightness, we have to move this selector to the left, until such time that the orange gets brighter, until if you want to set it to the maximum brightness, it moves to white. Nagets ra? So every color, not just orange, but let's say green. So for example, we want to increase the brightness of green. So same thing, it will turn into white. So basically, white is just the maximum brightness possible for any color. So that's why we have to exempt it. Okay. So aside from color, just like what I showed you a while ago, here's another example. So what are the elements that are being used minimally in this design, in this graphic design? Unsa man, unsa lan man, unsa man imo ang giminimal ana nila. Nga naman di ay. Unsa yung nasa yung okay. Okay, that's correct, Miss Baroy. All right, so going back, diba, we want to use 1 to 4 shades of one color. So from kani, the entire graphic design uses one color but different shades. So let's say ang iyang shade is kaning yellow or orange ba ni siya, or yellow orange ang iyang shade. And then we use lighter and then darker, and then we combine it together and we're able to create an illusion of gold, correct? And then another thing is the use of fonts. It says here that we should always use 1 to 2 typefaces. When you say font face typefaces, they're also called fonts. So in my case, I actually use three. Ang Miss, lahi siya nga font. Ang Ayungo, lahi siya nga font. And then 2019 is also another font. Supposedly, dapat there are only two, 1 to 2. However, three is still minimal. Yapon. So that's it. And here, we also use two colors. Or actually, there are only one color, which is green. And then, let's just include the white for the sake of the discussion. We use only white and green as the overall colors. That's still minimal. And we only use two fonts. This font face and then this font face. I'm sorry, this Kaning College of and then Arts and Sciences. Basically, there are only two font faces. All right, and this is just a very so ito gani kanang literal nga definition with minimalistic. So less details, much better. So I created a caricature for two of my friends. Actually, I created lots of these. Daghan kini akong gigamang inani for they are my friends during when I was still working in Qualphone. So less details, better. Because again, less is more. Simplicity is beauty, madam. And then here, same thing. We only use two colors, the blue and white. And in fact, sir, green money. Green, but still a shade of blue. That's why it's called blue-green. So it's still considered to be inside blue. All right? And that's it. So these are the 7 principles of graphic design. So it's very important, especially number 7. It's very important to make sure that the design will be as minimal or as simple as possible. It's not enough na dapat colorful kaayo, daghan kay kang font ibutang. Again, you are going to design to impress, not to to impress, not to express. So you want to make sure that there will be more people who are going to love your design, and that's why we need to follow the 7 principles of graphic design. So, do you have any questions or clarification on any of these principles? Do you have any questions, guys? Hello? Okay. All right. If that's the case, then that's going to be the end of this discussion. And that's going to be the end of the theory type of discussion in this class. Next meeting, we're going to